I'm Tim Smith with the Adams County Historical Society, and today we're going to do our first edition of Tim's Top 10. And the subject I've selected are myths or misconceptions of Gettysburg. And number 10. Lee had diarrhea during the battle, and that accounts for his poor decision making, such as Pickett's charge. Not true. This myth sort of came out of the desire for people to have a reason why Lee doesn't perform as well as he could at the battle. And I believe it's William Blackford who writes a book around the turn of the century, the 1900s, that suggests that Lee had diarrhea during the battle. But even though he might have ate some raw, not ripe Adams County cherries, I do not believe that for a moment. Number 9. Longstreet, General Longstreet, was ordered to attack at dawn on July 2nd. And of course, he didn't get into position until late in the day, and that delay accounted for the Southern loss at Gettysburg. Not true. This was actually something that was started after the war by Southern generals to sort of place blame on Longstreet for some of the things that happened at Gettysburg and make him a scapegoat. And they actually popularized this idea that Longstreet was ordered at dawn to attack. They called it the Sunrise Attack Order, and failed to attack. And again, this accounted for the loss, but not true. Number 8, Richard Ewell was ordered to attack Culp's Hill in the evening of July 1st. And of course, Ewell did not attack, and that led to the Northern Army fortifying Cemetery Hill and Culp's Hill and, winning the Battle of Gettysburg. Lee did not order Ewell to attack Culp's Hill. It's much, much more complicated than that. As a matter of fact, in the official report of Robert E. Lee, he said that he ordered Ewell to attack the hill occupied by the enemy, if practicable, but do not bring on a general engagement until the rest of the divisions of the Army have arrived. And of course, he's talking about Cemetery Hill, and that doesn't sound like much of an order to attack. It was Lee who urged caution. Number 7. General Meade, the Northern Army commander, did not pursue the Southern Army after the battle and was fired as a result. First of all, General Meade did pursue the Southern Army after the Battle of Gettysburg. The reason he didn't catch them, engage them in battle, because the Southern Army did not want to be captured and retreated and did not make a stand. And Meade, of course, commanded the Army of the Potomac for the rest of the war. There's a misconception because General Ulysses S. Grant ends up taking overall command of all Northern armies that he replaced Meade. Not so. Number 6. General Jeb Stewart was supposed to attack the Union rear at the same time that Pickett's division was supposed to attack Cemetery Ridge. And his failure to get into position, of course, resulted in the Confederate defeat. There is no evidence whatsoever that Jeb Stewart was supposed to swing around and attack Cemetery Ridge from the rear. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, this was something that they said in the electric map. The electric map made this pronouncement that this was the plan. And really, there's no evidence of this at all. I know there's a book written about this that suggests there's evidence, but I don't see it. And this idea that that was Jeb Stewart's goal is really promoted by the Union cavalry commanders that fought at East Cavalry Field in the 1880s and early 1890s to sort of give more importance to the fighting at East Cavalry Field. Number 5, the Vultures that you see on the battlefield today are the same ones that were there during the battle. Absolutely not true. Vultures lived to be between 15 and 20 years old at the most. When I was a kid, people were talking about the 120-year-old vultures. No such thing. And, you know, as time went by, they just got older and older and older. I guess now they had to be like 165 years old to still be the vultures from the battle. Number 4. General John Buford's command had repeating rifles, and that is one of the reasons they held back the Southern Army so long before the Northern infantry arrived. Not so. They had single-shot Sharps rifles, and it was actually the tactics and not the fighting that delayed the Southern Army on the morning of July 1st. But book after book after book has this story about repeating rifles in it. Number 3, ghosts. Let me just tell you something. There is no Bigfoot, there is no Loch Ness Monster, and there are no ghosts on the battlefield. Okay. Number 2, the horse's hooves. Probably the thing we hear most as guides, that there's some kind of rule adopted by artists that if you make an equestrian statue and the general you are portraying is wounded, that you put one hoof of the horse in the air. And if he's killed, there are 2 hooves in the air. Not true. It was never true. It was never a rule. I'm sorry. It's probably the most told myth of the battle. And number 1 for me has got to be the shoe factory. This story was actually started by General Henry Heath in his memoirs after the Civil War, when he described how he was marching to Gettysburg on June 30th because he had heard there was a supply of shoes in the town. There was a shoe factory, and he was coming to get those shoes. And he was thwarted on June 30th. He went back to Cashtown and asked A.P. Hill if he could have permission the next morning to go and get those shoes. And of course, Hill said that sure, he had no objections in the world. And the problem with this story is that's not why the Southerners are coming to Gettysburg. According to Robert E. Lee, in a letter written on July 4th, he ordered the concentration of his forces at Gettysburg. And on the morning of July 1st, A.P. Hill's official report makes it clear that they're going to Gettysburg as a reconnaissance in force to see what kind of troops are here. And the second problem with the story is there is no shoe factory in Gettysburg at the time of the Civil War. So it's just not true. But this has actually been on Final Jeopardy before, that the Battle of Gettysburg started because of shoes. And this is one of the things that all my life I've talked about. And here in my retirement, my friends and I are planning to pull together some money and open a restaurant. I'm going to call it the Shoe Factory. And everyone will come to the restaurant because they've heard the famous shoe factory and will do lots of business there.